Mike Craven here, Carter Yates, Republic of Football, joined by UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor. Coach, how you doing heading into week two?
We're good. It's always good when you win and your fan base is mad and your coaching staff's mad and your players are mad and the head coach is mad. That means you got a really good job and means you won a lot of ball games and we didn't play up to our standards and so we got a lot to work on, to say the least.
What was the most disappointing part of that week one win against Kennesaw in your mind?
Probably the penalties pre-snap and post-snap. I understand there's going to be penalties during the play. Some of that is just part of the game, right? But a pre-snap is lack of mental discipline, and post-snap is usually emotional and lack of mental discipline. And that part um, frustrated me. But I also understand our team. I know how much we love each other, how much we love to play the game, how passionate we are, and it seems like this is pretty common of us to start off this way. Just some common sense. I know you guys would expect me to fix it, but common sense. We've been hitting each other since the spring, the summer, the fall. I think you guys know how intense we are and how we love to play the game. And I think we just got too emotional, to be very honest with you. And we've got to be more mentally tough. And I know it sounds like coach talk, but it's just the truth, right?
How nerve-wracking is week one? You see the team in spring, you see them all summer, you see them in fall, but you just don't know exactly, who the guys are, who the leaders are, how they're going to play in week one. How nerve-wracking is week one, and what do you expect to be different in week two?
Well, the reason it's so nerve wracking, even if all your players are returning, which mine are not, we had a lot of shuffling going on our team because we're new in a lot of areas. You don't know what the other team's going to do. You don't really know who their players are. You don't know what they could have changed everything in the summer and the spring and the fall, and you don't have a clue, right? Um, so there's that. Then I have a new quarterback. I have a new center. I have two new tackles. I have new receivers. I've got new corners, and you still win all that. It's a very anxious. Um, it's the first games are the worst, right? And to your point, each week it gets a little better because you know your team better and you know the opponent better.
Well, Jeff, your new quarterback performed pretty well. He broke the UTSA program record for most passing yards in the season opener. I'm curious for Owen, what intangible does he have out there that you can tell like he's a McCown? Like you coached Josh, Luke, Randy, all of them at Jacksonville. What kind of intangible does Owen share that they had?
A competitive spirit, a toughness mentally and physically that's very uncommon. Um, they're just tough people. They're all of them are tough people. They're tough between their ears, and that would be the thing that separates all of those to me. But I do want to say this about Eddie Lee Marburger. Eddie Lee has those same things. He's a really good quarterback. We're going to need him before the year's up, and it didn't matter which one I picked. The other one deserved to play, and I just don't believe in playing two quarterbacks. I don't like people looking over the sideline. But I do feel like I owe Eddie that as well. And I know the question was about Owen, but I wanted to make sure to say that about Eddie.
But how has Eddie been in terms of Owen got the start, but Eddie was voted a single digit number too? Like it's very important for the backup quarterback to be behind the starter.
It's very similar, Carter, to when we had Frank Harris and Josh Atkins. Josh was also voted to a single digit. Josh was just as much a leader and as important on our team as Frank was in that locker room. And both those kids would say that about each other. And I'm very blessed that I have two kids that they both love the Lord tremendously. They're both selfless kids. They both got, their family. I mean, I could go on and on about the characteristics and qualities of what makes both those kids unique. Eddie's there for Owen, Owen's there for Eddie. And when I sat them both down and explained to them the decision, they were both extremely. Owen felt really bad for Eddie, and Eddie was very excited for Owen. And we're going to need them both. And it's the worst part of my job, other than when you lose a game. It's the worst part of my job.
Texas State week, obviously a big game for both fan bases, both teams. We got familiarity with GJ Kinney on the other side. But first, I wanted to talk about that 2020 game and winning 51-48, kind of the first big game of your tenure. How much did that win kind of speed up the process of turning around the Roadrunners and building that momentum?
Well, it was a lot like our first game this year. We got off to an unbelievable start, and we were leaking oil. We had parts coming off everywhere, coming down the stretch. I can remember, Mike, so vividly. When they took the lead on us, we probably had a minute something left, no timeouts, 25-yard line. Anybody that's got an aggressive bone in their body at all is going to go try to score right there. And I don't know if you remember, but we took 3 knees. And I remember telling my team, my coach, like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, boys, we can't go 75 yards on air right now. We are dead. Our best chance is to get this thing on a 25-yard field and us get some timeouts and some breaks because of all the commercial breaks, or we don't have a chance. And it's amazing how far we've come. But it's similar to this last game we just played. We got off to a roaring start, and we just had to hang on. And that's what I really remember about that game. And not to mention it was COVID, Mike. There were so many things going on. Spav and I were good friends. He coached my son. He had a mask on. It was just weird. It was weird, just to be honest with you. And see, it seems like the other day, one of the media members asked me, like, what do you think's changed the most about Jeff Traylor in 5 years? And I thought long and hard. Then I said, well, honestly, I look like Obama or Clinton when they went through, or the Bushes when they went through their 2 terms. I've aged drastically in these 5 years.
It kind of started the one score, Jeff Traylor's teams always win those games kind of narrative. What is the key to winning those close games? I'd imagine you believe this week 2 game is going to be another one. What do y'all talk about to kind of help yourselves in those moments?
No, I don't know that we do anything different than everybody else does. We all work situational football. I know everybody does that. I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to give you some kind of great coaching, something. So y'all would speak to me like y'all do Lincoln Riley and all that kind of stuff. But we work the same stuff everybody else does. It'll get corny because I don't really want to. I think our culture, our guys really do play hard. And we hang our hat on, a champion. GJ knows the same stuff. He's coached by me. GJ probably uses the same quote. A champion has the ability to play one play longer than his opponents. And the better the team, the better the opponent, the longer they're going to last. Can we go one play longer? And we've just gone one play longer a lot. Statistically, we're up there towards the top of the teams that have played the most. Statistically, we've won. It's astronomical how many we've won. But dadgum, Mike, those ones we lost still hurt drastically bad.
Jeff, you coached GJ in high school. GJ was in your son's wedding. Like, how hard is it for you going up against a guy who you said's like a son to you this week 2?
The worst, honestly. We're so similar. It's crazy how eerily similar GJ and I are. We both love people. We both love our players. I could go on and on about the similarities. Offensive style, I used to be just like him when I was younger like him. We played fast as heck. We threw it all over the yard. And I miss those days, honestly. I've gotten older and wiser, in my opinion, and we've kind of slowed down some things. We do things a little bit differently than I used to when I was younger. But it's almost looking at it like a spitting image of myself. Back when I had a flat belly and hair, and I was maybe as handsome as GJ is.
I know GJ likes to talk about the back when he played quarterback and he used to spin around the yard. I'm curious for you as his coach, where does he rank among all the quarterbacks you've coached? Where are you putting GJ Kinney at?
I just wish I'd have had him longer. His dad got that Baylor job. His dad had just gotten shot. And so I only got to have him for that 1 year. I really would have loved to have had him longer. I don't know how you could describe one that's better than him. Now, I had some unbelievable ones. His brother, McLean Carter. This is a funny story, Carter. Um, I used to tell McLean all the time, there's nothing you're going to be able to do to outdo your brother. There's only one thing out there your brother's not done. This is when McLean's in the 6th grade or 7th. I said, winning a state championship is the only thing your brother's not done. And McLean, my very last game at Gilmer, that was GJ's brother, McLean, that won me that state championship. That's another really cool story. He was very strong. He was very physical. The players loved him. That was one of my toughest teams I had to coach at Gilmer. It was a tough team to handle. And those kids loved GJ. And it's one of my most painful losses is not getting that kid a state championship. He deserved to win one, and I didn't do a good enough job. Now, that's back when we played offense, just like he does now. Well, we hurried up and snapped it, and we played as fast as possible. And after that game, we changed for the next 7 years, and it's more of a resemblance of what you see UTSA like now, more tight ends, more run schemes. As GJ would say, a more boring style of offense.
I don't think I'm talking out of turn here because both of y'all have spoken about it publicly, but you helped GJ get that job, right? You made some phone calls and helped him get in that chair. Do you regret that this week? I know the other 51 weeks out of the year you probably don't, but this week, kind of what are your thoughts on that?
I had a flashback, and I know I'm getting really old. I have all these stories now. But I remember when Carthage called me about Scott Surratt. And Scott was one of my very best friends. I was a coordinator at Texas High. And I remember telling the superintendent, these words I'm fixing to give you are going to really haunt me at Gilmer, Texas. I said, but that Carthage job is so good. If you hire Scott Surratt, we might not ever beat y'all again. He's that good of a coach, and y'all have that good of a job. Now, I'm not saying that's why they hired Scott Surratt, but that's the recommendation I gave. And when Texas State called me about G, I said it to them the same. I'm like, this is going to be a pain in my butt when I tell y'all this, but this kid is uniquely different, and he will make y'all better. And yes, he's a pain in my tail, recruiting, all that. But I'm more than thrilled to have been a small part of GJ Kenny's success.
When you watch Texas State on film, kind of what are your early thoughts on this 2024 version of the Bobcats, and what are the Roadrunners going to have to do to pull this one off?
Tailback, incredible, 2 great receivers, great quarterback, massive O-line, great scheme. Matt Leftwich does a fantastic job. They're the real deal. Defensively, gosh, their inside people are monsters. They play extremely hard. Their secondary is all back. It reminds me of kind of my 21 team when I had everybody back. It's just such a good feeling. And oh, by the way, they just went out and got a quarterback that's the player of the year. And even the backup's good. He's good too. They're loaded. They deserve all the attention. They deserve all the praise. I totally understand why we're the underdogs, and it's very well earned by GJ and what Texas State's administration, athletic director, the president have done. Kudos to those guys. They're doubling down right now, and I'm really happy for GJ.
Well, I know it gives you headaches, but it makes it a lot of fun for the fans. And it's 2 regional teams in a sport that's becoming increasingly national, Texas State, UTSA. What does that mean for college football, do you think, to have 2 regional teams like this in the group of 5?
I'm just so loyal to Texas, Carter. I don't even think about it. I know in our state, it's a big deal. That's what makes college football exciting. It makes high school football in Texas so exciting. Just Smithson Valley, just whenever you play games that are regional and they're competitive, that's just exciting stuff. And because the fan bases in Texas are just so passionate, because you have to understand how important Texas high school football is. Like, almost everyone's father played and they were coached by a man that made a tremendous difference in their life. So in that household, football is spoke on so religious-like that it matters. And the fan base at Texas State has been starving for a great team. And UTSA's fan base has been starving for great teams. And both communities are getting that right now. And, oh, by the way, they're very close to each other. And, oh, by the way, they're playing each other Saturday. It's what makes all this so fun. And none of us would get what we get if it weren't for games like this. Now, in saying all that, it's still just game 2 for the UTSA Roadrunners. We've got to focus on us, and we got to let Carter and Mike get into all that hype stuff, and we've got to go focus on getting better right now because we've got a ton to work on if we're even going to be able to be competitive Saturday.
I know that your first 5 games of the schedule are kind of a gauntlet, and that's kind of how it was last year for y'all too. I mean, how important is it for y'all to have a tough set of 5 games before getting into conference play?
Well, even when I was the head coach at Gilmer, I was also the athletic director, and I used to make jokes all the time because our schedule was so tough. The AD must be trying to get the head football coach fired. I was the AD, right? So I teased Dr. Compost quite often, like she must be secretly trying to fire me because she never gives me a schedule that we can just get off to a great start on. We play some killers every year. It does make us better in October and November and December, but we just got to somehow survive September. Kennesaw, like I told y'all, is going to be way closer than everybody wanted it to be. He did a great job coaching that team. They gave us all we could handle. We've got 16 kids in the injury report this morning, and whoever's out there Saturday, we'll play with those guys. Texas State's going to be extremely physical. It's going to be a hot game, and it's going to be a literal war. Not to make that sound too drastic, but it's going to be a tough game.
I've talked to Coach McGuire at Texas Tech about this too, but it kind of strikes me that the way y'all used to have to coach was to ramp up for the playoffs, and now with the 12-team playoff and the expansion and G5 champion, like every single game of this matters. Have you had to change the way that you kind of approach coaching? That the second game matters the same as the 8th game as the 10th game, or has it stayed the same for you?
No, it's a fine line. We've made some adjustments, no doubt, Mike. But it's still a fine line. To your point, we're basically especially in our situation, Joey could afford to probably lose one and get in if he were to win the Big 12. I don't have that luxury. We've got to be darn near perfect or we're not going to get in. So that makes our situation, GJ's situation, a little bit different. That if whoever loses this week, it's going to take some crazy circumstances to allow that team that loses to still have a chance, right? So it is what it is. We're literally in a playoff scenario. We won week 1, so we both advanced. So week 2's up. Can we advance again?
Now, you're an offensive guy by trade. Everybody likes to talk about offense, Frank Harris not being gone, the quarterback position. But it strikes me that this team is going to be pretty oriented on defense. The defensive unit's going to be strong this year. Kind of what did you see from that unit? What do they need this week against how you mentioned, a high-powered Texas State offense?
Well, you've been doing this for a long time, Mike. A lot of this is just common sense, and we want to make it other things, and it's really not that complicated. We've got a lot of guys back on defense. Those guys have been playing for a long time. They've been really good for a long time. Our offense lost a ton of players. We lost a ton of production. Common sense would say we're going to have to probably get carried by our defense for a little while until our offense can get up to speed. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but it's just good common sense. And you know what Benjamin Franklin says about common sense. It ain't so common.
Jeff, we appreciate you coming on to the Public Football Podcast. Looking forward to what we think is probably the best regional matchup that we've got of the year coming up in Texas State, UTSA. I know, let the media do all the hype, and it's just week 2 for the UTSA Roadrunners, but appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Well, we're excited. It's what makes football fun, and appreciate you guys having me on. You guys, what y'all do for Texas is very important to all of us, and we're grateful for y'all's coverage, and anything we can ever do in San Antonio to help you guys, we're here to help. So thank y'all. God bless. Birds up.
Appreciate you, Coach.